comes out of the share. So I am going to introduce this conversation by saying hi to Miss Lauren, who is a longtime friend of mine, and has worked with me for a long time. We have been in each other's world for a long time. We've been entrepreneurs for a long time, both of us, in so many different capacities, I feel like. And right before I started recording this, we were just doing like a check-in, and she was like, I love that, you're so busy, and it's like things are flowing to you so busy. And I'm like, yes, this is the gift of energy. I was like, I'm gonna start recording right now because I don't want to miss any part of this conversation, because I know that we always drop so many nuggets of wisdom like in the middle of just talking and just connecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sure. I feel like that always happens when you're
yes.
having conversations and you plan on recording. It's like
Yeah.
so much of the juicy stuff can happen right away. And you're like, dang it.
I
Why
should
weren't
press
we
record.
recording?
So if you could do a favor and introduce yourself, like your name and what it is that you do, which has recently shifted, which is very exciting for you.
Yeah. So my name's Lauren Rex. I'm a mama too. I have a 4 and 7-year-old. I've been in the entrepreneurial space for like, oh my gosh, over a decade, all of my
Yeah.
20s, literally all of my 20s. I grew up in the online space and tried to find my way as an adult. And I think that had a lot of pros and a lot of deconditioning work that had to be done once I hit my 30s, right? Recently though, I've finally stepped into postpartum doula. That's what I'm gonna claim it is, a postpartum doula. And so I've had a lot of resistance around it for a long time. And I had a lot of resistance around birth doula, which was what I thought I was initially gonna do. But come to find it was just super unpredictable. So like that didn't work for our life right now with littles. And then this birth doula came into my world and I was like, wow, this is like exactly pulling everything that I feel like I have been experiencing over the last 4 some years into this profession that lets me actually like be in the space with humans, which I think is what I've been craving and lacking from the online space. Also because we live in Texas and all my family is in Minnesota. So I'm not getting that constant
Connecting.
connecting with like family like I would if I lived in Minnesota, right? Like I just had that like connection piece right now of like, oh, that makes sense because I'm not getting that constant like hanging out with my mom or hanging out with my sister, right? So it's something I've been lacking for a long time and craving for a long time. And it's like we were having our conversation. I mean, we can just kind of go into whatever comes out, but I was just like, man, I've literally been taking one step at a time with this, and which is so unlike how I've done business online for so long. And I can't even express just what's been coming through and how with ease and like peaceful it feels doing it this way.
I love that. I love that specifically because you are a manifesting generator, and a lot of the work that we have done has been on the skipping of the steps, which is a very infamous thing that man gens do because they move so fast, and they know they're very action oriented and they're very involved in the action. And a lot of the coaching that we have done together and the work that we've done together was really bringing you into the understanding that things really have to flow in your direction. I specifically remember having so many conversations with you about the waiting for the external sign thing constantly, and me reiterating that and reiterating that and reminding you and reminding you. And I remember you bringing up pregnant women. You're like, everywhere I go, there's all these pregnant women. There's all these pregnant women. There's pregnant women. I was like, this is a sign. Like, I was like, hello, this is exactly how the aura works. Like, it's being pulled into you so that you can address it. Like, this is where you respond. Now this is your job. Now
Yeah.
you get
And
to
I
like
think,
respond.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I've uncovered since I've been stepping into this is my mind couldn't grip how I could serve the masses, aka like mass pregnant people in the online space. It was so fixated on needing to make my business work in the online space because I had been in it for so long, right? So I couldn't, my mind could not logically understand, well, how is that going to work? Like so like I just kept forcing things to try and work in the online space when really it was like, no, you need to get out, like get out in your reality, get out and connect with women in your local like community, get out instead of trying to force it in the online space. Not that there's anything wrong with the online space, but you and I both know I've been here for like a long time, and to not be I'm trying to word this in a way that's like, to not be where I quote unquote think I should be, like financially wise or success wise, for all the work on the back end I've done forcing, doesn't make sense, right? So it's just like this I'm not supposed to be forcing anymore. And so stepping into that has been stepping out of the forcing and into the just what's the next step, follow the signs, what's the next step, has been like it's been a journey over the last like 2 months.
I recognize this journey. I would love, this is kind of a really good leeway into just you sharing your experience, because we have worked together in a lot of capacities. Like we have done human design and consulting and stuff, which people watching this, you know, that's one of the things they can do. But you've also been in Design to Shine, which is my course for business and human design. But along also though, we've had a lot of just off like page mentorship conversations as well. And so I would love for you to share with anybody who's watching this, who's like, you know, maybe they want to join one of those courses or take a consult or something like this, or the Genius Incubator, and they're sort of hesitating. Can you share your really value takeaway of all of the time that we've spent together, really helping you find your north so that you could really lean into what was good for you and what fed your soul and your spirit? How do you feel like my work in your world has been a value add for you?
It's a big question. First off, I feel like just our friendship and knowing that I can be like, girl, this is, and you're like, yep, this is this is you, Lauren, stepping into it, right? And like you acknowledge that because you know, like you've looked at my chart so much and you know who I am, and like all of that I feel like is like invaluable, right? Just having that, our friendship connection. But Design to Shine and all the other things I've done with you, I feel like opened up so much in me just really learning and understanding myself. And then it was being aware of that, right? Being conscious to that, because now I know, and really learning how I was designed to show up, make decisions, be in the world, really has been huge, because it's been like, yeah, it's taken me a hot minute to even just like step into all of it, because it's a lot, but I feel like slowly I have, and it's always interesting when, or it's fun coming back to you and being like, yep, I told you that a couple of years ago. Or like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Like as fast as I want to work, it's like I still am slow to be like, but I have like a lot of mind stuff, because I think my open head is just like, it takes in so much, and it's like, okay, this is just like finally stepping into it and like really letting go of like everything else. I feel like Design to Shine really helped me like navigate all of that and like see on paper, like, hey, I am not meant to do what everybody else is meant to do. And like, I can do it in my way. And even if it doesn't make sense, that is completely okay. And then pairing that with EFT, I feel like always, every time we had a session, I was like, I was not expecting that to, you know, like we'd always come in because it'd be like, what can we do around business? And it would be like, this comes up, and it's like, that has nothing to do with business, but it so does at the same time. And it's just like, it's your skill in like that, and being able to pull things like that out has been awesome to just like, yeah, be a part of, but also witness. So that is huge. Just being like, oh, I think this is my problem. And then be like, no, actually, this is really what looks like is holding you up. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Right. So
I love that you brought that up. If you could share a little bit of that, that would be helpful because I think the human design kind of makes sense in terms of like this is how you can be successful and seen, but the EFT part in terms of how valuable it could be for deconditioning, I think this might be sort of a missing link for entrepreneurs where a lot of them don't realize like maybe some of your hangups are not actually business related, but something else, like a deep sense of not trusting yourself or some trauma that happened really long ago and is still kind of haunting you. If you could share a little bit about how that was eye-opening for you, I think that would be really beneficial for people to hear.
yeah, for sure. I know so much of my journey. I feel like I have been trying to like fix, like, what is the thing? What do I need to fix? And like, whenever we would do a session, I always had like an idea of like, okay, this is what came up for me. This is what I want to work on. And then we would get into the session and it was always the eye thing. Whenever you had me do the eye thing, you were always like, oh, this is where you're like ignoring this area. So like, let's tap on that for a little bit. And always like would come up and I'd be like, that's so crazy because yes, definitely it was so true, but I never like worked on tying the two together and then being able to go through that and like release it is like huge, right? It's not just like therapy where you're opening up the wounds and having to try and remember and bring it all together. It's like, oh, I'm seeing this with what you're doing, like with the, what would that be called? What was the I one?
Eye movement. It's really just a brain tracking is what it is. Part of the EFT is looking at where the brain mapping is coherent or incoherent.
Yeah. And just like that skill of being like, oh, and you being super intuitive, I feel like is huge too, because you tap into that as well. So it's so much more, I feel like, for you than just, oh, I'm an EFT practitioner, right? Like you bring a lot of different unique things to the table, which I appreciate. And it's not just like cut and dry, if that
I
makes
thank you for saying that. Yesterday, I had a session where I was really guiding someone towards almost like self massage and body movement. And I realized how valuable all my years of bodywork training really were in this, because I really have an intimate understanding of the somatics of things like trauma and pain and suffering and how the body is in relationship to the emotions. And then the mind, and then how all these things kind of stack and layer together. So I do feel like the way that I approach this work is really different because I'm paying attention to so many things that you are showing me, not just like what my protocol is for tapping, but also I'm looking at your body. And I've said this to you before, I'm like, your body is moving in this really specific pattern. Like you're starting to do this thing and you're like, oh yeah, I am doing that thing. And it's is all communication, right? But it's subtle form communication. And if you're not really trained to pay attention to it, you miss it, right? And then you miss the opportunity to find the core issue. So
right.
I'm grateful that you brought that up because I do think that is something really unique that
Mhm.
I bring into this arena that it really influences the results of then
Yeah.
what comes afterwards.
For sure. Because it's
Sure.
not scripted, right? It's not like you come in and you're like, okay, here's the process I need to bring you through.
Right.
It's like, okay, yes, you have the process, but also like, ooh, this is showing up. Like I'm really
Yeah.
seeing you like your body move this way, or your eyes are now like you're totally not connecting with me or whatever. And you're able to pull that out and be like, we're gonna actually go this way instead of follow this process.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
super
Truth.
unique. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Um, what would you say to someone who is like on the cuff of like really joining any of the offers that I put out in terms of like elevating their business or aligning them with their success or things of this nature, who's like, I don't know about this stuff. This stuff seems a little fringy to me. Huh? What is this? What would you say?
Um, I would say start where you feel comfortable starting. Like I feel like the human design aspect is I pretty straightforward in the sense of like EFT can be a little like not woo woo, but if you're used to like traditional therapy, and just take that next step, right? Whether it's doing one of your master classes or doing your next round of design to shine. If you're doing another round, I don't know. Or whatever it is, like make that investment in yourself. And I think like when I did design to shine, it was really the investment into learning me more, not so much of like how can it benefit my business, but like, how can I understand me more so that I can bring my fullest self to whatever it is I'm doing? And that investment, when you look at it like that, and like, it just makes a world of difference. So, and I love that it's like, once you do make the investment, you have access to that stuff forever. Like going back through it again and then having your expertise along the way. Like that first round was amazing. That of Design to Shine. It was just like there's so many things where it was just
It's
like,
gonna get so much better too, and you guys are all gonna be included. The alumni are gonna be really happy with my announcement for this coming March, I
can't
think.
wait,
And
can't wait.
I really pride myself on being a really generous teacher, on being someone that gives a lot of value, that is really supportive, that really shows up for people. I don't really like people getting lost in the weeds or feeling like I don't know what's going on or feeling confused. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's only going to get better. So hang
Yeah.
tight because there's more to come for the alumni also. Um, I really appreciate you talking about investing in yourself as a person. One of the things I think that gets missed as entrepreneurs is there's a lot of how do I elevate the business and not too much of how do I elevate myself. And that's really what I wanted to bring out with Design to Shine was you are the center of what you are creating.
Right.
So to the degree that you understand yourself and you understand your gifts and your challenges and the things that you are shaped for naturally and not, it's how everything is going to be modeled and worked around. It's all working around you.
Right.
So that is like massive. If you don't know who you are and how, like everything you've figured out in terms of being a postpartum doula and now like what you're doing in your world is so well suited for you. But would you have really allowed yourself that invitation if you didn't understand all the things that you uncovered?
No.
Yeah.
I feel like when I tapped into human design and really understood so many different elements of my design, I was like, I have not been doing so many things that like how I was living was not how I was designed to be doing things. Like decision making, for example, I've made so many dang decisions on a high. And then the next couple days I come down from the high and I'm like, dang it, that's not really what I wanted to do.
Yep.
Or from like FOMO or from like a low place and then
Yes.
being like, now I don't really want to do that anymore. Like so many. So like that, just like those types of things that like as an entrepreneur are so good to know. And like being in the online space, you're bombarded with so much. And it's like, if you don't know who you are and what you how you make decisions and how certain centers affect certain your whole life. It's like you literally can get lost in the sea of everybody telling you what to do. Yep.
Yep.
In there.
A
It's
hundred
doing
percent.
that. Totally.
Yes.
And you don't know what you don't know, right? So it's like that's where I feel like design to shine or even doing one of your like one-on-one things is like it opens your eyes to like, wow, okay, here's where I've been operating. Here's where I'm supposed to be operating. And now I can slowly like shift to that area, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I don't really have any other questions.
Mhm.
If there's anything else that you feel inspired to leave on this recording, because I think you pretty much nailed it in
Yeah.
terms of like, but I mean, otherwise I'm good.
I would say if you are a Manny Gen, because I feel like this is where I've been struggling the most or have struggled as a Manny Gen is like not being afraid to pivot and not being afraid to like do something that doesn't necessarily make sense logically, maybe, but taking that step because all your things will start to come together. Like I think about, for example, I had my first postpartum client last week and we were talking and she had like a baby. So I was like holding her baby and I was just listening to her, like mentoring her, listening to her talk about her life and her last year and all this stuff. And she's, so it's like mentoring her, which is a part of me, holding her baby, mothering part of me. And then she was talking about how she wanted to create a journal. And I was like, ping, done that. I can
I
help you do
did that.
that. And
Yeah.
then she was like, I also too like would love to create like a community of people. Long story short, she had like a business before and she's like, I really love to create like something that I'm passionate about, like, for me. And I was like, ping, I can do that as well. And it was just so interesting to see like all these things I've been working on over the last like 4 or 5 years come together in this one experience.
moment.
I just literally was like, this is
How
where I'm,
humbling.
yeah, like this is
Humbling.
it. Instead of me trying to pigeonhole myself into like a niche online to make it work, like I opened myself up to like being in somebody's space and then serving them where they are
Mhm.
based on what I've experienced. And I left so so fulfilled and satisfied after that 3 hours. I was like, yep, this is what I was supposed to be doing.
Generator signature fulfilled.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Check
Well
mark.
done. Well done. I love that. Thank you
So,
for reminding everybody that they really, that knowing who you are and being led by, you know, your authority, which is how you make decisions in human design, it puts you in the place you need to be. It places you where you need to be with the people you need to be with. It's so invaluable.
yeah.
So thank you for that reminder. All right,
Well,
that's
yeah.
it. Thank you so much for doing this.